The wind howled across the rugged mountains of the Montana, territory like a restless spirit, carrying dust, cold, and the lonely echoes of a land that showed mercy to no one. Winter had not yet arrived, but its breath could already be felt in the air. The pine trees creaked, and the distant peaks glowed purple under the setting sun. In a small wooden cabin, standing stubbornly against the wilderness, lived a widow named Eleanor Hayes. The cabin was old, built by her late husband years before, when hope had been stronger than hardship. Now the roof sagged slightly. The fence leaned like a tired soldier, and the surrounding land looked as lonely as the woman who lived there. Eleanor had not always been alone. 2 years earlier, her husband, Thomas Hayes, had been known as one of the toughest settlers in the valley. But the mountains had a way of taking what they wanted. One brutal winter, Thomas had ridden out to search for a missing calf during a storm and never returned. Some said wolves took him. Others believed the cold claimed him first. Eleanor never knew the truth. She only knew that the door never opened again to his familiar footsteps. Since then, Eleanor survived the only way she could, through stubborn determination. Every morning she rose before the sun, chopped wood, carried water from the frozen creek, tended the small patch of land behind the cabin, and fought against the creeping loneliness that filled the silent rooms at night. Many settlers had already moved away from the valley, but she stayed. It was the only home she had left. On the evening that would change her life, Eleanor was hauling a heavy bucket of water toward the cabin when she heard something. Unusual hoofbeats. She froze. Few riders came through this isolated mountain pass, especially near sunset. Travelers preferred safer routes, and the valley had gained a reputation for danger. Slowly, she placed the bucket down and stepped closer to the porch. Her eyes scanning the tree line, the hoofbeats grew louder. A massive horse emerged from the forest path, its dark coat glistening with sweat. Riding it was a man unlike any Eleanor had ever seen. He was enormous, broad-shouldered, towering in the saddle like a figure carved from the mountains themselves. His beard was thick and wild, his coat made from rough animal hide, and a long rifle rested across his back. His eyes were sharp, dark, and watchful. The horse stopped a few yards from the cabin. The stranger studied Eleanor silently, as if measuring her strength. Eleanor lifted her chin, refusing to show fear. "You lost?" she asked firmly. The giant man dismounted slowly, boots hitting the dirt with a heavy thud. Up close he looked even larger. His presence filled the small clearing like a storm cloud. "Name's Caleb Boone," he said in a deep, gravelly voice. "Mountain man." Eleanor had heard of men like him, loners who lived deep in the wilderness, trapping animals and surviving where most settlers couldn't last a week. "What do you want here, Mr. Boone?" she asked cautiously. Caleb glanced at the cabin, the empty land, the broken fence, and then back at her. "You're alone," he said. It wasn't a question. Eleanor's jaw tightened. "That's my business." For a moment neither of them spoke. The wind rattled the wooden walls behind her. Then Caleb stepped closer. "Winter's coming," he growled. "This valley won't forgive a woman living by herself." Eleanor crossed her arms. "I've survived 2 winters already." Caleb studied her again, and for the first time something almost like respect flickered in his eyes. "Strong woman," he muttered. Silence fell again, until suddenly the man spoke words that made Eleanor's heart pound. "Your body is mine until I have my sons," Caleb said in his deep mountain voice. Eleanor stared at him, shocked and furious. "Excuse me?" she snapped. Caleb did not smile or laugh. His expression remained serious, almost primitive, like a man who spoke only the truth he believed. "I need a family," he continued calmly. "A strong woman to bear sons who can survive these mountains." Eleanor stepped forward, anger blazing in her eyes. "I'm not livestock to be claimed," she said sharply. For a long moment the two stood face to face, the cold wind whipping between them. Then Caleb did something unexpected. He nodded once. "Good," he said quietly. Eleanor blinked. "Good? Means you got fire," Caleb replied. "Weak women don't last out here." Eleanor frowned, unsure what to make of the strange man. Caleb then turned slightly and looked toward the darkening forest. "You got bigger problems than me," he said. As if summoned by his words, a distant howl echoed across the valley. Wolves. Eleanor's stomach tightened. The mountain man glanced back at her. 3, maybe 4, he said calmly. They've been following my trail. Another howl came, closer this time. Without waiting for permission, Caleb strode toward the cabin and began tying his horse near the porch. "What are you doing?" Eleanor demanded. "Helping you live through the night," he said simply. Despite her anger, Eleanor knew he was right. A lone woman fighting wolves in the mountains rarely survived. Within minutes, Caleb had built a larger fire outside the cabin and checked, the rifle across his back. His movements were efficient and confident, like a man who had fought the wilderness many times before. Eleanor watched him cautiously. "You always introduce yourself to women by claiming them?" she asked coldly. Caleb shrugged slightly. "Didn't say you agreed," he replied. That answer irritated her even more. As darkness settled, the wolves' howls circled the valley, but the large fire and Caleb's steady presence kept them at a distance. Hours passed. Finally, Eleanor spoke again. "Why this valley?" she asked quietly. Caleb stared into the flames. "Mountains are changing," he said. "More settlers coming. Land disappearing. I'm looking for a place to build something that lasts." He paused. "Family." Eleanor studied his face in the firelight. Beneath the rough beard and intimidating size, there was something else there, loneliness. A loneliness she recognized. "You don't even know me," she said softly. Caleb looked at her. "I know strength when I see it." The words lingered between them. The night grew colder, and slowly the tension faded into an uneasy understanding. Two survivors sharing warmth against the wilderness. Before turning in, Caleb spoke again. "Don't worry," he said quietly. "I don't take what ain't given." Eleanor looked at him carefully. For the first time since he arrived, she believed him. Maybe this mountain giant wasn't the danger she had imagined. Maybe the mountains themselves had sent him for a reason. The fire crackled under the star-filled sky, and somewhere beyond the darkness, the wolves slowly disappeared back into the forest. Eleanor stepped onto the porch and looked back at Caleb. "You can stay the night," she said. Caleb gave a small nod. Neither of them realized that this meeting, born from cold winds and lonely hearts, would soon become a story whispered across the Wild West. A story about a fearless widow, a mountain man who feared nothing, and a bond forged in the harshest wilderness. But before the next chapter of their fate unfolds, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss another powerful Wild West story filled with courage, mystery, and unforgettable characters. The frontier still holds many secrets, and the next one might surprise you even more.